You don't have to try to remember everything that I say, and then you can reference back to it if something sounds a little bit fishy in your dealings with scams or fraud, right? So my name is Kenda, and I am from Visions Federal Credit Union, so I'm right on Erie Boulevard West. I'm a financial wellness officer there, so I partner with other nonprofits and schools and other organizations in the community to teach financial literacy. And so I do things on a very basic level, like intro to banking and credit, budgeting, all the way up to basic estate planning and planning for retirement, and all the stuff in between. So scams and frauds have been a hot topic for, gosh, a long time now, right? I started at the credit union probably about 14 months ago, and I sit near the fraud department. So a couple of them are hybrid workers, and they come into the office at the beginning of the week. And the conversations that I hear or privy to listening to, even on just the one side of it, are scary and disheartening. And oftentimes people get stuck in a financial predicament that could have easily been avoided had they known the few things to look out for. So that's what we're going to talk about today: how to start spotting scams, what the fraudsters are using now, because their technology becomes more advanced, right? As the police agencies catch up and financial institutions catch up, then they start advancing their technologies. And so we're going to talk about some of those technological advancements as well. And that way you can be more aware for yourselves and hopefully thwart a scammer or a fraudster before they're able to gain any type of access to your credentials or your bank accounts. So first, why are seniors targeted? Well, seniors are targeted for a couple different reasons, right? So the first reason is seniors typically are less technologically savvy, not always going to know what's happening on your phones or in your emails or on your apps. And the other reason why seniors are targeted is it's believed that seniors have lots of cash, and they're gonna just hand over this cash, right? So those two things coupled together make seniors more of a vulnerable population. And there's other vulnerable populations too, like those people that are developmentally disabled. They're a super vulnerable population. Scammers love to target them. People that are new Americans, scammers love to target them because they certainly don't know any better, and they're learning all kinds of things all at once, and so that makes them very susceptible as well. So there's all different types of scams. There's impersonation scams, government scams, Social Security scams, Medicare scams, and IRS are some of the more popular scams. And these ones are able to be carried out because scammers do something that's called spoofing. And so spoofing is when you look at your caller ID on your phone and it says, IRS, government agency, or it says Medicare, or it says government building, or whatever. They're impersonating that facility, right? It's not really them calling, but spoofers or scammers have figured out how to spoof it so it looks like them, right? To entice you to pick up the phone. Because you'd be like, gee, what's happening? Why is Social Security calling me? I better answer this phone call. I bet it's important, right? So that's one way that they do stuff like that. And when they are spoofing, they'll get on the phone with you and they're going to create this sense of urgency that you have to do this now, and that it's, there's something that definitely needs to be done. We have to do it now, and we need to do it this way, right? So they'll ask for specific forms of payment, whether it's like a gift card or access to your banking credentials or credit card credentials, but oftentimes it's something like a gift card, or they want you to cash app stuff because those aren't traceable, right? It's not as traceable as if you were to give up your banking credentials or a credit card number, right? So oftentimes these scams, when they come through, you think it's important. They're requesting this like urgency to act on the matter very, very quickly, and it's not really them. And so when that happens, hang up the phone. It's okay, you can hang up on people. Trust me, their feelings aren't going to be hurt, and you're probably going to save yourself a lot of heartache if you just disconnect the call, especially if you're not expecting a call from one of those people. And I can promise you, any government agency that wants to get in touch with you will always, always, always send a letter first. So you'll get a letter in the mail, and the letter will say, "Dear so-and-so, please contact us regarding whatever the matter is," whether it's some type of tax issue or Medicare or IRS. They will want you to contact them, and then that way you know for sure that you're contacting the right agency and talking to the right people and not someone that's looking to scam you or fraud you out of any kind of cash. So another type of scam is the sweepstakes lottery scams. These ones are fun, you know, everyone likes to win something and feel important, right? So they'll call you up and say, hey, you won. Your prize is $500, but first you got to send me $100, right? So if you've ever won something, typically you don't have to send money to get money. So that should be the first clue that this maybe doesn't sound right. Also, if you don't remember entering any type of contest, right? So if you're like, oh, I don't remember entering any type of contest, how could this be? Or if you're like me who enters contests and never wins anything, I'm like, I don't ever win anything. This cannot be real, right? So you want to make sure that you're asking questions, and it's okay, you know, give them a little pushback and ask questions. I'm sorry, could you refresh my memory? What contest is this? What are you talking about? When would I have met you, right? Ask those questions to get them to open up and say what they're doing, because more than likely they're not trying to be, you know, nice and say that you won and want to make sure you get your prize. They're looking to get that $100 first before you never receive the $500, right? So take your time, slow down, ask them questions, and don't be afraid to, again, disconnect the call. Like if you don't know what it is or it doesn't make sense or you're like, I have no idea, right? Just hang up. It'll be okay. So another kind of phone call is the robocalls. So these are the ones that are generated by some type of AI robot, you know, that will call you. And you can always tell it's a robocall because the number is a really weird number that you don't recognize anywhere. And it takes a long time to connect, like 20 seconds. No one's there. Because usually if you pick up the phone, you're like, hello, and the person right away is like, hey, how are you? You know, robocalls, they take a few minutes to connect. And these are generated by fraudsters and scammers that are probably halfway around the world. And so they're using savvy technology that's able to dial thousands of numbers an hour to try to hope to get somebody to pick up and say hello. And so, again, these might also have spoofing capabilities where the number may look like it's legitimate, but again, if it takes like 20 seconds to connect or 10 seconds, or like there's a noticeable time drag, you definitely want to be very leery about that. And again, this will also instill some type of sense of urgency. Like it's urgent for you to take care of whatever the matter is. But like I said, they're calling thousands of numbers in any given time. Typically, they're going to be from another continent, and they're going to be looking for some type of money to be sent. You know, and you can kind of tell when you're talking to them that like the line sounds kind of faint, you know, or there's a lot of like clacking noise or other things that would signify that it's not a local phone call and that it, you know, may or may not make sense to continue talking to those people. Probably best to disconnect the call. So another one of these robocalls that will happen a lot is the impending lawsuit. So these ones will give you a call and they'll be very aggressive. You know, you have a lawsuit that's pending and you need to pay me $500 today or you're going to jail. So I don't know if you guys have dealt with the American court system, but there is nothing speedy in that process. Nothing, right? So if you were named in a lawsuit, you would have a good idea that you were named in a lawsuit, you know, because they sent letters and you have to be served. Like there's this whole process that the court system goes through prior to going to jail. And typically, if they're looking for some type of monetary payment, that happens in civil court, and people don't go to jail in civil court, they just pay a fine, usually, right? It's not very often that you're going to serve time in jail in a civil matter, unless it's some type of like huge federal matter like, you know, racketeering or tax evasion, something to that effect, right? But not, you know, not anything that $500 is going to take care of, right? And also you would, again, know that you're being involved and served into a lawsuit, right? And the court system is not, you're not on the docket tomorrow when you get served, right? It's usually weeks on out. So, you know, if somebody's calling you and saying that you are facing some type of jail sentence immediately, if you don't follow through on their requests, it's definitely a fraudster, and disconnect the call, right? Don't continually engage with them and don't give them any information. And then another one that's become real popular is the, can you hear me? So when the phone call connects, if there's that lag again, number of seconds, and you're like, hello? And they're like, can you hear me? Don't say yes, say, I can hear you. Because when you say yes, this artificial intelligence can record your voice saying yes, and then they can use that to authorize payments and fraud in other ways. And so you always want to say, yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. But of course, if somebody is saying, can you hear me? And it sounds kind of distorted or crackly, or there's that long lag time before the call connects, chances are it's not local, it's not somebody you know, and it certainly is not someone that has good intentions for you. So hang up the phone. So another scam is computer tech issues. And so this goes on if you're online at your own computer, and you see a window that pops up, and they look very legitimate. Years ago, I fell for one. And it says, hey, listen, we've detected a virus on your computer. Please call this number. And you think you're calling Microsoft, and it's not Microsoft. And it took me a minute to figure out that it was indeed a scam. And I didn't give them any banking information, but I knew that they had already affected my hard drive, and so I knew I was in trouble, right? So there's a couple things with that. First thing is Microsoft is busy. They are not checking everyone's personal computers to see if there's a virus. They don't have time, nor is that something of interest to them, right? They make enough money doing other things. They don't need to tell you about a virus on your computer, right? And the second part of that is it's not going to, it'll immediately affect you, and it depends on if you click on any additional links or whatnot, how deep that worm will go in your hard drive. But it can still do damage even if it just pops up and you let it sit there for a second and you're like, yes, and then you're like, oh my gosh, no, right? So you want to, if you see that turn on or that pop-up window, turn off your computer and disconnect it from the internet. So just shut it down, don't answer, don't do anything. And if you want to err on the side of caution, places like Staples and Best Buy can run some type of program to see if your computer's been infected. If you're like me, you do a lot of stuff on your laptop. There's things I do there that I won't do on my phone, but chances are you have some type of information saved somewhere in there that you don't want other people to have or get sold on the black market. So another popular type of senior scam is the grandparent scam. This is one, where they call you up and they say, okay, your granddaughter is in jail and we need the bail money now. So when this happens, it could be something like they're in jail and in trouble with the law, could be a medical emergency. They'll get you on, again, that it's a sense of urgency, the dire emergency, and you need to act now, right? So oftentimes, I'm not sure how they're getting the information. Maybe it's just a chance, like a game of chance of just saying, well, granddaughter, grandson, being really broad in their scope. But what they're looking to do is to get you to act. And of course, you love your grandbabies. You want to do whatever you can to help them out. But again, I err on the side of caution. Call your son or daughter to see if that grandchild really is in trouble or not. Because again, oftentimes, if they're in trouble and it is some type of medical emergency or a law emergency, those agencies don't work very fast. And so if they are in jail, somebody would have been told first, hello there.
Hello, I'm sorry I'm late.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
No worries. So chances are somebody else knows that they're in trouble. And don't be afraid. You can always say, you know what, I'm going to call to verify. Can I take your name and number to give you a call back, right? And they'll probably hang up on you at that point because you would have thwarted their attempts to extort money from you. Oh, yes. You go get your own copy and a nifty pen. Sure. So some of the more popular scams, and these ones affect everybody across the board, not equally, but certainly affect everyone across the board, is these romance scams. My neighbor just was in one of these, and I told her from the start, I said, this sounds like a scam. Please be very careful and do not give them any money. But you have people that are lonely and they're looking for love, and it's easy to find love on the internet now because you can be connected to so many different people at one time, and you don't even have to leave your house. And so this makes, looking for love very opportunistic for the wrong people, especially if you're in a category that's a bit more vulnerable, like a senior or any one of our friends in the LGBTQ categories, or you know, divorced men over 70, right? Everyone's in a different kind of category, so it makes it easy to prey on these specific individuals. So these can start off, you know, somewhat benign, where you see the photo and they reach out to you and it's hello and it's hello, and you start conversating back and forth, and then all of a sudden they're telling you that they can't live without you and they love you 2 weeks after you've initially met, and you're like, well, this is fast, but this is fun. My heart's fluttering. I feel good. This is great, right? So what I ask of you is pump the brakes, take a second, and there's a couple of things you can do. So the first thing you can do that will thwart them is say, you know what, I love talking to you. Can we FaceTime or do some like computer video chatting, WebEx, Zoom, FaceTime, any one of those platforms, right? Because typically if it's somebody that's, you know, 2 continents away, that is just looking to get your money, they're not going to want to FaceTime with you, right? Because they're not a real person. They're not who that picture is, right? So you want to, that's one way that you can start to unravel their nefarious plan, okay? The other way you can do it is say, you know what, I just love that we have talked and gotten to know each other so well over the last month. Let's meet up, right? If you offer to meet up and you want to go to where they are. Oh, I know that you live in Kentucky and it's kind of far away from Syracuse, but I don't care. I'll fly down there. I'll get my own hotel room. You know, even if you have no intention of following through on the plans, set it up that way, because that typically will thwart them, and then all of a sudden they'll stop talking to you, or you won't hear from them, or they'll come up with some other maybe story about what's happening that they can't, you know, make that connection, right? Super important, never, ever, ever, ever send them any type of money, no matter what they're telling you, whether it's their birthday. You know, and my neighbor ended up sending this person some money because she thought it was really their birthday. Well, they showed me the driver's license, and I saw this, and I saw that, and I'm like, those things can all be formulated using artificial intelligence, right? You can make any kind of document seem legit, you know, so unless you're holding it in your hot little hands and you can feel that like embossed birth certificate stamp, right? You can create anything in this world on the computer using artificial intelligence. So I caution everybody, please be very careful, especially if the person doesn't live anywhere near us here, right? You know, it's hard to go check out if somebody is really at their place in Kentucky that's hours away. It's easier to check on them if they're in Liverpool, right? It would be much easier to track them to see if they really are a legit and real person, right? And these people will want you to send them money very, very quickly. So that's the other clue too. They'll say probably within like 2 weeks, they'll start asking, you know, well, it's my birthday, and don't you want to send me something special, right? You know, and this scammer went as far as to send my neighbor flowers. So I was like, well, this we really like, they're very ingenious, and they'll do anything to make you feel good about yourself so that you'll continue talking to them, and they can get to know you better, and then they, you know, start to weasel their way into your finances, and they can get really, really ugly. There's a couple of members at the credit union that have been taken for thousands of dollars. This one member, like, I kind of feel bad for him, but I kind of don't, because he let it go really far. Like, his wife had no idea that all their savings was gone. He had sent it to some woman in Costa Rica. And, oh yes, yeah. So that was a bad day when he had to come clean about that to her. But because she answered the phone when the fraud department called, and she's like, "What is this all about?" And he's like, it was an odd conversation to listen to, but yeah. So, you know, things like that happen. People think that they're able to cover it up and no one will know, but like it all comes out. Everything done in the dark comes to light. So, you know, inadvertently, she found out the hard way because fraud's calling and asking, what are all these wire transfers for? What are you doing? We put a lock on your account. We can't do this anymore, you know. So money mules, this is another newer one that seems to be going across the board generationally. And so these ones are more of the, like, I'm gonna give you a check, okay? I want you to go cash this check, and then you can give me 500 of the dollars, you keep 500, but send me that 500 in Cash App or gift card, right? So scammers do that for a couple of reasons. First reason, it's not traceable, right? So once you negotiate that check at your bank and then that check bounces, you're on the hook for the whole amount of the check, but they've already got the $500 because it was sent to them via Cash App or gift card, which is like cash anyways, right? And then because it's done via Cash App or gift card or some fashion like that, where it's untraceable, they're long gone. And the cops or the financial institution cannot recover those funds because it's like as if you just handed somebody cash and there's not anything we can do about it. So those ones have become really popular. Those ones get a little bit tricky, and we do call the cops and we do file police reports, but sometimes it's very, very difficult to nail down the person that forged the instrument or created the false check. So be very, very leery. If somebody is offering to pay you to cash a check, it's usually not going to end up well. So I would advise to, no, please don't do that to me. I'm not going to cash any check for you. Email phishing scams. So these ones, I haven't seen or heard a whole lot about these lately in the fraud department. It's mostly the romance scams and the money mule scams. With these email ones, they can be, in your inbox where they're looking to see if you're going to click on the links and respond. And oftentimes these are just faces. Like there's not even a person back there. Sometimes it's AI generated, and they'll be enticing, right? It'll be something like, either you've won something, click on this link to collect, or it's something where it's like, hey, there's something going on with your account. Click on this link to verify your credentials, right? So I got one in my email. I get it all the time in my junk about PayPal. We have $500 in PayPal. We can't give it to you because your account, we can't verify it. And I'm like, that's funny because I don't even have a PayPal. So, you know what I mean? So there's nothing to verify. I'm really sorry. I don't even have one of those. So oftentimes those will come through like that, and it'll look like it's the agency or the person, and it'll look super legit. And there might not even be anything that is visible that's off on it. So what we like to tell people is that if you receive a text message or an email that's asking for your credentials, please call the agency. Don't just click on that link and give out your credentials. Call the agency that has sent this to you, ask them if it's legit. Or in my case, I know I don't have a PayPal, so there's no way you have $500 for me. So, and I also want to caution and urge you to set up MFA, which is multi-factor authentication. So that's when, like, you're clicking on your, I'll use Home Depot for instance. You click on Home Depot and then it sends a code to your phone, and then you have to put in that code in order to access your account. And that saved me because back in May, I woke up to a text message from Home Depot saying, hey, were you trying to buy something? And it was like 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, no, I was sleeping. So the MFA that I had set up saved me from a fraudster getting into my Home Depot line of credit and then buying whatever it was they were trying to do at 2:30 in the morning. So if any, and most places offer that now, just as like a secondary point of security. So I highly, highly urge you to set up MFA. I know it is such a pain, but I would rather have it ping to my cell phone and then I type in the code. And it's usually a long code, like 6 to 8. I've even seen like 9 or 10 digit codes that they'll populate there. And then you can get into your account that way. That way it is you that's, accessing your account and it's not a fraudster. So, so what happens if you find yourself caught up in the middle of one of these scams? So first thing I would advise you to do, stop the conversation, right? Hang up the phone. Turn off your computer. Stop all contact with these people because, again, you don't know who's on the other side. If it's some type of AI that's really super sophisticated, is it a human being? Is it you have no idea who or what it is or what their capabilities are. And it's okay. Don't feel like, don't feel bad that you're being rude. Just, nope, we're all done. I'm all done. You're not going to talk to me today, right? The other thing I want to urge you to do is tell somebody, whether it's your friends, if it's your financial credentials, let your financial institution know, we as a financial institution, and I can't speak for all financial institutions, but at Visions, we don't want you to not have your money. We want to make it right. We want to make sure that you're safe and you're protected. And we want to make sure we can get your money back for you. Sometimes we can't, right? Like I said, if it's a cash app or a gift card, things that act as cash, we can't get those back because there's no way to trace it. But if we're talking about like a wire fraud, like if you're trying to send, $10,000 or $8,000, we'll call you and ask you what that's for. And it may seem like we're being nosy and like, what are these people doing? But we're calling because first we have rules to follow with the American banking system. But secondly, we want to make sure you're okay. We don't want you to lose $8,000. We want to make sure that you have your money so that you can spend it, right? And $8,000 is a lot. So, and with a wire, wires have to be authorized to go through. But once a wire is transferred and that money leaves your account, we can't get it back either. So that's the other thing with wires. So if we have that ability to step in and ask you, hey, listen, who are you sending this to and what's the purpose of it, right? It's because we care. We want you to have your money. We don't want you to be, subject to a financial crime. Oh, bless you. So please tell somebody, tell your financial institution, and call the police. That's what they're there for. Sometimes you see on the news that like, oh, there's been, a number of reports about this scam going around in whatever neighborhood, right? That's what they're there for. They also don't want you to be without your money. They want to make sure that you're safe and you're protected. So please tell your friends and tell anybody that will listen, because oftentimes they kind of run in circles with the scams. And so if you're telling your friend Judy about it, Judy's going to tell maybe her family members and her friends, and then everybody becomes aware, and then everybody is just a little bit safer, and those fraudsters are thwarted, and hopefully they stop doing what they're doing, but chances are they'll just move on to somebody else. So don't be afraid to hang up the phone. Don't give them any of your information. Be very, very cautious if you don't recognize the number, especially even if it looks legit. Government agencies are never going to call you out of the blue. They're never going to demand payment by 6 p.m. tonight. They're never going to ask for cash or gift cards. Any government agency will always, always, always send you a letter in the mail, snail mail, that you'll open up and you'll read, and they'll ask you to contact them when it's convenient for you, right? There's no process where if you don't pay this by the IRS or to the IRS connect, you're going to jail. Like, it doesn't happen that way. So just be very cautious. And if you have that little feeling in your stomach where like, this doesn't seem quite right, listen to that little person in your stomach, because they're trying to tell you that this isn't right. And it's okay to hang up and not continue the conversation. Does anybody have any questions?
You mentioned call us, but are you talking about if we get money in your institution? There's no number on here to call you. So instead of call you, we should call the bank.
Yeah, whoever you bank with, right? Yeah. So like if you Chase, yeah. So like for example, last week I had to change. I'm with Empower. I have account at Visions, but I have one at Empower as well. And I noticed a weird thing. Said account verified, and it was a 1 penny deposit, and I was like, huh, what the heck is that for? So I asked, fraud department. They're like, I have done this. They go through the whole punch list of items, and I'm like, no. I'm like, I work here. I wouldn't do any of that stuff. Come to find out, there's a job that I moonlight at that was changing payroll companies, and it didn't say anything to anybody. So I thought it was a fraud. I thought somebody had gotten in my credentials, and I'm like, who would have gotten in there? And the fraud person was like, sometimes it's just an AI bot that happens to get all the numbers correct, and they get into your account. So yeah, so I converted my whole account for no reason. Yeah.
I did the same thing with my new credit card that I hadn't had more than 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But I got the bill and I had 95 cents one day, another, whatever that I got, and then 98 cents like 3 days later.
Oh.
So they didn't tell me they were going to cancel my credit card, but they said we'll take care of it. But then when I went to use the credit card, it wasn't usable, and I finally yesterday got the new one.
Oh.
They don't want you to have any of those little charges because somebody's learned something and they'll get in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you lose everything, that's for sure.
That's good, that's good. The other thing I wanted to suggest while we're on the topic of that is, encourage you to have either like an Experian account or a Credit Karma account, because those will act as a big brother with your credit. And so, Experian is one of the credit reporting bureaus, and they also have like a credit monitoring service. So oftentimes your credit cards will have a free credit monitoring service anyways. If you like sign up, like you go onto your accounts and you can sign up for it. Usually it's a free perk that they give you. There's other ones that'll charge you like $24 a month or $30 a month. I don't encourage you to do those because Credit Karma and Experian will do that for free. And so what they'll do is they'll be like, hey, we saw that you charged whatever, is this you? And you just go, you know, if it is you, don't worry about it, we're just looking out for you. If it's not you, this is how you dispute it. And so any little change to your credit report, they're sending me emails all the time, like, we saw you opened a new account. We saw that you had a charge that was this big. Is that you? Did you really do that? Because it's not like you, right? And so you want to sign up for any one of those services that are free, and they typically are free. And you can set up different alerts on all your lines of credit too. So let's say on my Home Depot card, I have an alert set up that was like, if I spend more than $250, please let me know. And I'll say yes or no to that, right? Because I want to make sure that someone's not going in there and spending $2,500, because it would not make me very happy.
You mentioned Credit Karma, but what was the other one?
Experian, Experian.
And you would ask your credit card company to put you into that?
Those ones you can sign up on your own with an email, but each line of credit that I have also has a credit monitoring, and you can set up different parameters for it. So like on my Empower card, I don't think I have any, but like on my Home Depot, I have parameters set up on it. So I have to do like a multi-factor authentication where they'll give me a code or they'll stop a payment from going through. Like I recently was out of state with my kids and I got an alert on my phone. Hey, you bought something in Sandusky, Ohio. Was this you? Please answer yes or no, because if it's not, you know, we're gonna stop the charge and not let it authorize and go through. So each company has their own little spiel that they do with that. So I would strongly suggest setting that up. The other thing you can do is if you have a card that you don't really use, like I have one that has a $19,000 credit limit on it that I don't use for anything because the interest rate is too high, but I don't want to cancel it because it has my utilization really low because I have that available credit. That account's frozen. So it's open, I just don't use it and it's frozen. So if somebody were to successfully guess that account number, they can't go spend $19,000 of my dollars. Anything else?
We never answer our phone anymore unless we recognize the number
Yeah.
and the name comes up. We're getting one, we have never answered it, so I don't know, but quite frequently we've gotten one saying, we have a package we're trying to deliver to you.
Yes.
Yeah, would you go, you know, I mean, fortunately, we don't order too much stuff.
Right.
So, but if we were somebody, some people order all the time, they're always getting
Mhm.
packages, so.
That happened to my husband because he loves Amazon.
Yes, yeah, the people that on Amazon, we don't order that much, so.
And he got tricked and he had to get a new card. He's like,
But if we did order a lot, you might think that was legit.
you would think it's legit, right? Because you're like, oh, okay, well, you know, it's Christmas time or birthday time, and I just ordered 17 packages from Amazon. So chances of one of them getting stuck somewhere or lost is probably pretty good, right? So it would make sense. I'm with you. I don't really order a whole lot of stuff. And the stuff I do order is from reputable companies. It's not Amazon. I'm not a huge fan of Amazon. You know, to each their own though, but like I don't like to, they do a lot of third-party stuff that I just find not.
We don't use it much either.
Yeah, no, it doesn't give me a warm fuzzy, so I tend to stay away. All right, you are so welcome.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, oh, thank you. If you haven't